So I just saw Sonic the Hedgehog, and it was Sonic the Hedgehog. I've seen a lot of movies recently that I want to review, and I'm gonna get to those at some point, but I saw this and I was like, yeah, I gotta cover this first. This movie has had quite the interesting journey to cinemas. It was originally slated for a December 26th release, but then the trailer came out with that character design, and the internet reacted so poorly to it that they delayed the film so they could fix the design. Which, to give credit, is a pretty good thing for them to do, especially considering just how bad the design was. But what a lot of people don't know is that the VFX studio behind this film, who had to do the redesign, shut down not long after. I'm not blaming the redesign on this or anything, but VFX artists are typically underpaid and overworked, and this cannot have helped. But hey, now it's accurate to the original, so that means it's good. Speaking of accurate designs, there was also a weird war between Birds of Prey fans and Sonic fans before the Sonic movie was even out. Boycott Birds of Prey for Sonic because they kept the designs accurate, whereas Birds of Prey didn't. We don't like that. Boycott Sonic because he's racist and homophobic. I'm not kidding, that was the actual argument. All opinions on either film aside, the argument was completely immature and toxic and did not need to happen, but I guess the internet's the internet. Grow the fuck up, they're just movies. Anyways, as a result of the controversy, the main draw to this film for a lot of people was the visual effects. And to give credit, some of the character designs did look pretty good, but without exaggeration, the vast majority of the visual effects in this movie looked like fucking shit, and unfortunately this often extends to Sonic himself. There are multiple shots in the film that are just close-ups on Sonic's face, and it always looks fake without fail. The fact that there was a redesign is also painfully obvious in a lot of the dialogue scenes. Obviously, they kept the same recordings for Ben Schwartz as Sonic and did not re-record anything, which is a fair decision that I'm not going to say was a bad one. However, for most of the movie, Sonic's lip movements do not match up to the dialogue at all. It's painfully distracting and takes you out of the movie every time. And to extend to Sonic a little further, Ben Schwartz's vocal performance in this movie was just not good. Despite his best efforts, he did not fit the character at all. Although, to be fair to him, there are much worse performances in this movie. James Marsden played James Marsden. Tika Sumpter was fine until the film demanded a lot more emotion from her acting, and then she was not fine. Easily the highlight of the acting for me was Jim Carrey as Dr. Ivo Robotnik. Jim Carrey's performance in this movie was so batshit bad that I was having a blast every time he was on screen. I'm not even kidding, his performance in this movie reminded me of John Leguizamo in Romeo and Juliet. On top of that, the film never knows how seriously it should be taking his character. Like, yeah, the character's really cheesy, but the film also really wants him to be this badass, cool villain too. There are multiple scenes with him that open with winding camera movements to try and make it look really, really cool. You know that really lame shot from the movie Nerve? Yeah, imagine that, but with Dr. Robotnik. It was genuinely laughable every goddamn time. On top of that, Dr. Robotnik has an assistant, and every scene of theirs together makes it look like they're about to kiss. I am not exaggerating when I say my gaydar has never gone off so hard throughout a movie as it did throughout this one. It genuinely got to the point that during one of their scenes I realized that Eggman was the top of the two. So yeah, that was also kind of funny and really made every scene with Eggman and his assistant much more entertaining. Outside of the Eggman scenes, the cinematography to this movie was really bland. I mean, I'm not shocked or anything, but you'd think with a film that has someone who can go super fast that they'd use it for some creative shots. But they don't. Most of the editing choices throughout the film were obnoxious and annoying. The musical score was formulaic and didn't really add anything at all. In terms of presentation and acting, this film kind of fails on every level. Natasha Rothwell did a good job in the movie, but she also was only there for like 5 minutes. She gets all the best dialogue, all the best jokes, and they do not utilize her nearly enough. Speaking of writing, outside of this one character, this script is pretty awful. The story is cliched, tired, and does not make any sense at all. Every setup is the most obvious thing in the fucking world. You can see the ending coming from a mile away. Every character in the movie is an idiot. And then you get to the humor of the movie and wow. This film falls into the same category as films such as Night and Day, The Kissing Booth, and Playing with Fire in that the humor is so painfully unfunny that it doubles back into being hilarious. Quite honestly, between the terrible humor and the plot that made no sense whatsoever, I honestly had a blast watching this movie. I'd even go as far as to say it does reach so bad it's good ranks and I would watch it again. I also made the very smart decision to watch this opening night with a bunch of friends, and what kinda surprised me was that there were very few kids in the screening, but it was still a packed screening. Me and my friends were probably some of the youngest people in the screening, and quite honestly, it all being adults made the experience much more fun because none of them were taking it seriously whatsoever. I don't know how many people there unironically showed up to see this movie, but everybody was taking the piss out of it. It was a lot of fun. Now normally with a film like this, I would go into spoiler talk to discuss how nothing made any sense, because nothing in this movie made any sense. But honestly, with this film, I can see myself revisiting it on the channel. Most likely in the form of a commentary at some point. I won't make any promises, but this film is entertainingly stupid enough for me to consider returning to it. Anyways, check this movie out when you get the chance because it was pretty funny. And I'm giving Sonic the Hedgehog a 2 out of 10. That's the end of this video. Like, share, subscribe, and bad outros, and I'll see you in whatever I do next.